Hello, and welcome to this week's Career Chat. We have Angela with us today, and she is going to be telling us a little bit about her career. First off, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Shannon Crooks. I'm a librarian 3 at the Hillcrest Heights branch. We do career chats every week. We're hoping to motivate and inspire our viewers. I know there's some teens probably listening and some adults, and we hope that this interview allows you to see into a career that you might know about and want more information about, or you might not know anything about it and you would like to learn more. So we are going to go ahead and get started. Angela,
Hi,
welcome, welcome.
thank you
Okay,
for having me.
no problem. And Angela is an organizational development manager. So, Angela, tell us what that is, what your duties are, how long you've been doing it, just kind of like a brief introduction to what you do.
As an organizational development manager, I am responsible for succession planning, employee coaching, employee engagement and retention, diversity, equity, and inclusion, as well as anything else that they come up with. I work in the human resources department,
Mhm.
and to be honest, my job was talent development. So I only dealt with professional training to begin with for our employees. And I actually petitioned for the title to be changed last year because I was doing so many things that fell under the org dev umbrella. And what that really means is when I'm looking at the people for promotions, for succession planning, I'm also looking at the strategy of the organization and trying to align skills with where we're trying to go to make sure that we have the right people in the right places so that they're happy in their job.
So you mentioned petitioning. What exactly does that mean?
Yeah. So this role did not exist in my current organization before. They actually didn't even know what it was when
Mhm.
I started talking about it. And so I basically had to do a lot of research and create it was probably a 5-page document
Mhm.
on what org dev is and how I'm already doing that and why my title should be changed to that. And I
Mhm.
had a meeting with my boss face to face and explained it to him. And then he had to share it with the senior vice president of HR in order to get approval to change the title.
Yes, excellent. So Angela just told us about advocating for ourselves when we are working in a job.
Yeah.
It's very important. So some of you listening may be in a position right now, but you're also doing things outside of your role. Um, you have increased duties or responsibilities. And what Angela just told us about is actually advocating for yourself. So sitting down, coming up with a proposal of what you've been doing, how you've been doing it, and if it's related to a different position or position title change, presenting that to your boss and saying, hey, I've been doing X, Y, and Z. I think I can do more in this area. Can we look at possibly a title change? And sometimes with a title change, there is also a change in salary or whatever you're making hourly. So if you are an excellent worker and you're doing other things outside of your responsibility, this is an opportunity for growth and development for you. Possibly look at evaluating what you do and presenting it to your boss so that you can do more, make more money. So thank you for that, Angela.
You make a good point, Shannon. Before I started doing this particular title, I was working with our executive team already.
Hmm.
But now, one of the main executives I was working with just became the president of our company 2 months ago. And so
Wow.
now I'm very involved in the strategy. There's not a document that our president sends out that I don't see first. He
Um,
doesn't go to any meeting in the community without talking to me first.
mhm.
So it's really had a big impact on my visibility and my ability to affect the organization.
That's awesome. And I'm pretty sure you're going to continue to grow in your position while you are there. Um, Next question is, how long have you been working in this particular industry?
Yeah, so currently I'm working in oil and gas in
Mhm.
human resources, and I
Mhm.
started doing that in 2013. I
Okay.
was then working for an engineering firm in Houston, Texas,
Mm.
and just kind of, the oil and gas industry is cyclical, and so there's an up-down cycle, and a lot of it is contract work.
Mhm.
And so I went from one agency in Houston to another.
Mhm.
And, as organizations change, sometimes they rule out positions. And that's actually what happened to me. My first position was a global one. So I went to Singapore and Australia, teaching classes, just trying to make sure that there's a common language across the organization, no matter where you're located. So if we're teaching, construction management to someone, then I want to make sure that we're teaching it the same way everywhere we go. So that if that person is transferred or moved to another location, it won't be foreign to them.
Wow.
So that was where I started. And then I started doing it locally for a French company, and my projects there actually became global. I created a mentoring program, an onboarding program, and had no clue that people in the Middle East and in other parts of Europe wanted to use it. And so it actually became global, although the intent was not that it be a global program.
Wow.
So yeah, and then that brought me to where I am now, still in oil and gas, but I'm now located in the South, in Alabama.
Awesome. So young viewers, you just heard Angela talk about how a lot of companies are global, and she's done a lot of traveling. So that's something you can look forward to when you get out there, get into your career, is you could possibly go to countries you've never even thought you would go to and learn about those. And also you are streamlining, meaning you are making sure your organization does essentially the same thing worldwide. So there's several different opportunities when you start your career to look forward to. I don't think our young people really start to think about that. Some of them say all the time to me, I want to go here or there, I want to travel more. But really, when you get into your career, you will essentially probably be traveling. So it's something to look forward to and to
It
think about.
really is. I've been traveling my entire career since when I worked for Michelin back in 2006. And I traveled so much with them that I actually went to Europe for 2 weeks on points, and I didn't have to pay for any flights or any Marriott hotels.
Wow. That's
So
awesome.
travel
Yeah.
it can benefit you.
Yes, it can. And traveling is expensive.
It is.
And right now, it might not be quite as expensive because the pandemic is going on, but I've seen flights be hundreds of dollars going overseas. So having that opportunity to do it and also be working, you're still getting paid is like a stream, bonus. So yeah, thank you for that. The next question is, what was your educational path from high school to where you are now?
That is a great and interesting question. It was not what I planned for it to be.
Okay.
So in high school, I was in an international baccalaureate program in South Carolina, and I actually graduated from the international studies program at that school and went to college. I actually had my mind made up that I was going to Howard
Okay.
in your neck of the woods.
Yeah.
And it just didn't work out that way. I mean, there was an issue with paperwork. I was accepted, I had a scholarship, I had room and board, but there were some things that were missing. So I actually ended up at Jackson State University in Mississippi. And I learned after a semester that Mississippi was not the best location for me. So I actually transferred to Clark Atlanta University in Atlanta, Georgia. And that's where I graduated from with a degree in business marketing.
Okay.
Business administration with a concentration in marketing. I thought I was going to create Super Bowl ads. That was what I went to school to do. I wanted to be in advertising. I had an advertising internship when I was actually in middle school and high school. It was an after school program. And so that's what I thought I was going to do. I actually received my MBA from Wake Forest in 2017.
Okay.
So I took a break. I graduated from college in 2003. So it's a nice little break. I had to learn how to be a student again, but I did work on like certifications for my field in between those degrees. So I am what you call SHRM CP, which is Society for Human Resource Management Certified Professional. I also teach that class for the University of Alabama. I am ProSci Change Management certified. I'm a certified facilitator and instructor for Langevin and the Association for Talent Development. I am a master instructional designer. I have lots of certifications that have to do with my field.
Okay. And I'm glad you brought that point up, because a lot of people, they get into their field, they start working, there's so many opportunities to get certified or to get more education in what they do. And a lot of times they pass it up. And so To my adult audience, I would like you to really think about when you get the opportunity to take a course or to get a certification, that you really go after it, because when you decide you might want to move to a different company or change positions, it could really mean a lot. It could mean the difference in a higher salary and a lower one, or it could also mean you get in a different position that you were looking to get. And if you have that certification, that just puts you, it gives you the edge you need. And through our library's website, we do have several different courses you can take, and I'll be talking about that at the end. You can utilize lynda.com and use your library card number, and you can get certified in several different areas. Certifications are extremely expensive, and we're trying to bring them to you affordably. So check out lynda.com if you would like to see what certifications we offer. And there's also others in our digital resource section as well. Okay, Angela, next question is, how did you get interested in your profession?
Yeah, I actually started off in sales and marketing. So I actually did marketing campaigns for rental communities, whether it was condos, homes, apartments. I would go into a place and maybe stay there 1 to 3 months and just help them market their properties. And then, and that's considered a bit of a sales role also, because I would help them sell people as they came in. And then I transitioned to working for Michelin North America, where I actually sold tires, believe it or not. I sold tires for 7 years.
Wow.
And one of the great things about working for a company like Michelin is that their people philosophy is what enabled me to transition to what I'm doing now. So they have a philosophy of, they want people to rotate roles every 2 to 4 years so that they're exposed to different parts of the company and they know different things about how the organization works. And so after 4 years in sales in Southern California, that's where they sent me to live, I went back to my hometown of South Carolina, which is the North American headquarters for Michelin, and I became a trainer. And being a trainer, I was teaching, I guess, customer classes. So anybody who sells tires, when you go into a tire store, I was teaching them how to sell. And that was my full-time job, was just teaching. So I traveled, I was probably away from home 3 weeks out of the month. But that kind of built my talent development, my love for it. You know, they gave me the certifications that I needed in order to understand adult learning theory and how adults learn. And I kind of took off with it. And my manager at the time, you know, saw something in me and really gave me a lot of special projects to manage. So if you wanted to drive a car on a track anywhere in North America, it had to come through me. At one point, the CEO's team wanted to do a teamwork building activity out there. And his secretary called me to find out if it was okay. And I thought that was the strangest thing. But yeah, anywhere in North America, it had to go through me. And so that gave me a lot of project management experience. It gave me experience at building, you know, my own programs, my own documents for how things are run. And I found that I loved that. And I didn't want to switch. And I know that the Michelin way is to switch into something else. And I talked to the COO at the time, because he's very people friendly. He wanted to know if I would be interested in public relations. And I really was, because again, branding. I'm all about branding and marketing. And it just didn't work out that way. And so an opportunity came along, and this is very interesting. On an airplane, traveling for work, I sat next to a woman who I did not talk to the entire flight. I slept. In the last 5 minutes, you know, when you're gathering your things, you're about to land on the ground. She said, "You look like you know what you're doing." And I said, "I do it every week." And I turned around, because normally I have on like a scarf or a hoodie or something to keep people from talking to me. And this day I didn't have it. And she just kept going. And so she's like, "Well, what do you do?" And she's like, "We need somebody who's doing that. You know, we should go to lunch." And she invited me to an 1.5-hour lunch and almost doubled my salary. And that's how I moved into training and development full time.
Wow, great story. And so, viewers, we've talked to several people each week who talk about how they got their position, and a lot of them are saying the same thing. They just met somebody, they started having a conversation, they started networking, and they were able to make more money. So my adult viewers, maybe you're in between jobs right now. Maybe you are in a job that you don't particularly care for. Have conversations with people. You never know where it might lead to. Might lead to a position. It might lead to them connecting you with someone else that has a position that you're interested in. But never be afraid to have conversations with people, especially people that you may not know. I know we have to socially distance right now, so it might be a little bit tricky, but there's still opportunities for you to network so that you can possibly land the dream position you're looking for.
Yeah, and I will add this too. When I moved for that job, I joined an organization that provided me with a mentor in my field. And that's actually how I got the job that I have today. Someone, a recruiter, called her,
Mm-hmm.
asking her if she wanted to interview for this role. And she did not want to leave Texas. And she knew that I was looking for a new opportunity, and she recommended me. And that's how I ended up in this role.
Wow, that is
Yeah.
an amazing story. And I don't know that we've talked about mentoring, but that's another thing that is really good is having someone to kind of bounce your ideas off of. Maybe you're trying to do something spectacular at your job and you just need someone's ear, listening ear to hear what you want to do, and they can support you, push you, motivate you, guide you. But it is awesome to have a mentor, and young people, right now is the time to get your mentor. Hopefully they will continue with you throughout the time that you're, pursuing your career, but it's very important that you have a mentor to support you throughout this process.
Indeed.
Angela, so how much time did you invest into getting to where you are?
Ooh, a lot. Um, so I am a lifelong learner. I am a person who loves to learn new things. I don't like not knowing something or not knowing a little bit about something so that I
Mm-hmm.
can carry on a conversation. So I am always, subscribing to Harvard Business Review, Wall Street Journal. I'm always reading.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the biggest part of my time was spent reading.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to read like a book every week.
Mm-hmm.
I'm probably down to one every month now due to life, but I make sure that I still read those articles every week, those newspapers every week, those magazines, so that I can educate myself. And I spend a lot of time on sites like LinkedIn, where you can socialize and people are posting things that are relevant to what I'm doing. People in the same field, people in similar groups that have to do with our profession in order to do that. And then, of course, going back to school was probably the biggest investment that I made post graduation
Mm-hmm.
from undergrad. And that was just, it was well worth it. It really was.
You mentioned research and reading. That's very important. I don't think our viewers really realize the benefit of constantly reading about whatever profession you are currently in, or maybe it's a profession you're interested in going into. Just learning about what is happening now. What are the trends? How is the profession changing? That can really benefit you on an interview. If you go to an interview and say, okay, this is the latest trend with whatever profession you're interviewing for, that speaks a lot to you being invested into the company, the growth and change of the company, the transition. So it's so important to kind of stay up to date about that career or that profession. Or if there's training opportunities for you to go to a training, a lot of professions offer training for free right now, because a lot of us are virtual. You can go online and probably investigate and see several trainings that you can attend or participate in for free. That's also a networking opportunity, because usually there's a chat going on in the room at the training for you to meet people, or maybe there's positions that are being offered or discussed at other places. So it's just a great place for you to learn.
Yeah.
So yes,
Research helps build your credibility in the
yeah.
workplace. Once people know what you're talking about, they
Mhm.
trust what you have to say and your ideas. My president and I just had that conversation last week. He and I read the same article, and
Mhm.
he asked me, he was like, how do you know that this is what I'm supposed to say based on what this says? And he's like, well, I know that's what that's what you're trained to do. That's your area of expertise. He's like, but I read the same article and I didn't get that at all.
Mm.
So
Yeah, so being able to have that dialogue and also the other reading you did to back yourself up, from other articles or other
Exactly.
books, is extremely important. So yes, read, read, read. And if you don't know where to go to get whatever items you need to get you started with your reading or your research, you can always contact us here at the library. We are more than happy to help lead you in the right direction with finding different resources for that. So Angela, what advice do you have for someone wanting to do what you do?
Yeah, I would say definitely work on your soft skills. So being able to speak in public is very important. Being
Mhm,
able to relate to people, people who don't communicate like you, who don't look like you,
mhm,
who don't have the same background or experience that you do is essential. I can't
mhm,
tell you how many times people come in my office and they say, "Oh, you're so easy to talk to," or "I'm so glad I came because I needed to tell someone that."
mhm,
And having that ability to understand where they're coming from, and be empathetic. Emotional intelligence is huge.
mhm.
Really makes you successful in a role that deals with people, especially when you're supporting people and trying to move them forward in their careers.
Mhm. Yeah, that's an excellent point. Communication is huge because you're going to be working with your coworkers. You're going to have a boss. They're going to have a boss. So really, being able to talk with your coworkers and work alongside with them is very important. And then you're right. Everybody comes from a different background, a different place. Especially here in this area, there are people from several different countries, several different states, people who speak different languages or who have different cultural backgrounds. And so, having conversations with people, just having respect for people, and also learning about people is extremely important when you are in the field. And then I know with customer service, you never know who's going to come and be asking you for something at your job. So you really need to know how to communicate with people.
Yeah.
It's so important.
Yeah, in my
So
role, you never know what they're going to say. And so you
yes.
have to have that neutral face where you're not like, "You said what?" Like, yeah, you have to really have that neutral position where you're just like, "Okay,
Mhm.
and how did that make you feel?" I told my boss all the time, I feel like I should be a psychiatrist. Like I need another certification in in counseling because it really people bring what's happening to them in life to work.
Mhm.
And it does affect your work. And that's why I always tell people you really just have to pay attention to the details. Make sure that you write well, that you spell check and grammar check your documents. I
Mhm.
can't tell you the number of times I see things go out and I'm like, "Excuse me, did y'all not see this?" And they're like,
Mhm.
"Oh no, we should have sent it to you first."
Mhm.
Just
Mhm.
little things help other people to see you as an expert, and they'll come to you more and more for different things. And that's how you add value and show value.
Yes. So, representing yourself in the most professional way possible, with your language and dialogue with people, with writing, especially emails. You're right. People quickly type an email and hit send without even reading over it. So just slowing down, thinking, when you're speaking with someone, how am I communicating to myself? What does my body language look like? And then with emails, am I using the most professional language possible? Am I clear in what I'm saying? Because you don't want to offend anybody when you're,
Right.
communicating with them, whether it be your colleagues or with customers, if you're dealing with customers. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's very important. Um, so, Angela, what kind of obstacles did you face in your pursuit of your profession?
There's several. I think one of the things that has been the biggest challenge everywhere I go is this space. Nobody believes that I'm as old as I am. And so
Mm,
trying to build that credibility that I've been doing this a long time
mhm,
it has been very difficult. And it always amazes me. People are like, "Well, I thought you just got out of college. Well, you look like you're in your 20s." And I'm
mhm.
like, "Okay, hello, 40." Um, but that has just plagued me everywhere I go is that I have to reestablish myself as an expert and a professional because people discount me because they think that I'm too young to know what I'm talking about.
Mm,
And I learned that even in tires. I've worked primarily in male dominated industries
mhm,
as a female. And so having to build that expertise, I worked with a fellow trainer. We were partners. I had a male Hispanic partner, and we traveled the country together every week. And so we taught together, and we'd go to a location and we get there and people would immediately start speaking to him. And nobody would say a word to me. I'm like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to fix that. And I actually went to the engineering school at the research center at Michelin so that I could learn even more about tires.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would start every class off with a question that I knew nobody knew the answer to. I knew they were going to get it all wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And once I did that and I established it, nobody gave me any more problems. They were all happy to see me. They spoke to me. Like, I just had to establish that, hey, I am an expert. And that has never stopped. I don't know what it is. You know, I'm in oil and gas now, again, primarily engineering, primarily male. And it's just that reestablishing over and over is tricky. And then, of course, you know, workplace is just like anywhere else. You know, there's hallway gossip and people saying this and people saying that, and you have to make sure that you have your documentation of, no, that's not what I said, or no, that's not what we agreed to. You know, I don't, even things that I do verbally, I always make sure that I send an email to say, okay, just to follow up, these are the things that we agreed upon, so that it's in writing somewhere. Just so that I don't get caught up in that he said, she said in the workplace. You know, I'm seen as a leader in the organization. And so it's important that my reputation is above that.
You bring up a lot of great points. Yes, ageism is a thing. People judge a lot of people by their age, but in your case, they didn't know your age. So
No.
visually, they just assumed that you were a certain age and that you did not know what you were doing, or that you were not as experienced as you needed to be for the position. And so a lot of people face that. So I like what you said about, you just kept it professional, you kept documentation, you made sure you knew your stuff. So you went and did your research and learned all you could learn about, you know, what you were educating people about, so that when you got in front of them, they said, hey, she knows her stuff. She has done her research, her homework. She is really going to help us learn what we need to learn. A lot of people face that. And it's just about being confident. And I think building your confidence is about learning your trade. So whatever profession you're in, getting as much knowledge as possible. You mentioned reading, educating yourself, making sure you're prepared, making sure that you follow up with people. So those are a lot of great tips. So our adult viewers, this is something we can continue to work on throughout our careers. And young people, you can start now by being organized, keeping track of conversations you have with people, having a calendar, writing down things, making sure you're on time, just building your professional level right now while you're young is very important. So the next question is, where have you worked within the industry? You gave us a couple of places, but is there any places you left out?
Yeah, so I started working in the marketing, sales and marketing industry with Sales Inc., and they're based out of Atlanta. And then I moved from there to Michelin. And from there, I went to Jacobs Engineering in Houston and Technique. It looks like Technip, but it's another French company. So Michelin and Technique, both French organizations. And they were in Houston. And now I work for Hunt Refining in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And the difference is that Hunt Refining is privately owned. You know, it is not a public company. And so we actually work for the Hunt family.
Okay. So viewers, I know most people who are probably watching are from this area, the Washington, D.C., Maryland area. Don't be afraid to look for jobs in other places. If you're in a position where you can move somewhere else, Angela has worked at several different places in the United States and overseas. Don't be afraid to look at those jobs. Don't be afraid to apply. Don't feel like they're not going to hire me because I'm not living in that area. A lot of times these places will pay for you to relocate. So they'll pay for your travel to wherever it is. Sometimes they give you a bonus to get yourself started because they know you're going to be looking for housing. So don't be afraid to think outside of the box. I know sometimes when we're job searching, we're only thinking, okay, I can only look in this area because this is where I live now. But no, if you feel you are qualified and it's some place you know want to work, look into it, research it, see what it's about, apply for it, at least do the interview. You don't have to take the
Mhm.
job if you don't want it, but just see what's out there. And even if you're, you know, not living there, you can say to them, I don't live there now, but I would like to. Is there, you know, some type of incentive that your company offers for me to be able to transition and move? And 9 times out of 10, they probably have an offer for you. If they really want you, they're going to work towards trying to get you to work for their company. So don't be afraid to look in other places outside of this area.
Yeah, you made a few good points there. I actually interviewed for a job in another state once where it was not a relocation position and they made it one for me.
Wow.
So don't, just because it doesn't say that doesn't mean that it cannot happen. I mean, they catered that role to everything that I needed. And I felt bad because ultimately I ended up not going there.
Hmm.
But when I say they laid it out, they gave me an incentive for going back to school. They gave me
Hmm.
the full relocation, traveling back to find somewhere to live. They adjusted for all of those things because they wanted me on their team. And I was very honored that they were willing to do that. The other thing, just as an FYI, is I've lived in 10 states in the past 20 years.
Wow. Awesome. What are those 10 states, Angela?
I've been a bit of a nomad.
Okay.
Um, so I was in Louisiana, Texas, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, California, DC, Tennessee, which was briefly, and I'm leaving somebody off. It's in this loop though. It's not Florida. Oh, where am I forgetting? I'm forgetting somewhere. I can't think of where I'm forgetting right. Louisiana. Did I say
Okay.
Louisiana?
Mm-mm, you didn't say
Okay,
Louis.
Louisiana. That's it.
Okay, wow. So, as you can see from Angela, I mean, the possibilities are endless. She even turned down a position that was willing to do whatever to have her work for their organization. And so it just speaks to her ability, her drive and also probably her research. She's talked a lot about that. So I just cannot stress that enough. She researches her career and her profession and probably even the places that she applies to. It's very important to understand where you want to work, what type of organization is, what they're passionate about, what their drive is, so that when you go to the interview, you can say, hey, I know your company was founded in whatever year it was founded in, or hey, I know that your organization is moving towards this type of effort, or hey, I know that this is what you do to try to work with customers. Understanding organization will take you so far in an interview. I cannot stress that enough. Reading about the organization, a lot of people don't do that. So it's easy to do. You can just Google wherever you applied to. A lot of times they'll have a website. You can read about their mission and vision statements. If you don't know what those are, look for those. And it essentially is what they, believe in, what their values are, what their goals are. So you can learn about that just by reading through the company's website. So it's so important to learn about the organization you want to work for. Okay, so Angela, can you compare and contrast different jobs you've had? You've told us about a lot of them, but
Yeah. I think in sales it's very similar. I think my sales job prepared me for what I'm
mhm,
doing now because it was all about relationship building and building trust with your customer and kind of understanding their business, understanding their language.
mhm,
And that was a skill that was very transferable into human resources, just to understand people and be able to understand what are their needs and where they're coming from. So that helped a lot. But I would say the difference now is that I'm not just talking to people when I call on the customer. It's not an appointment that, we meet every Thursday at 11 o'clock. Like that's how my sales life was. I knew
mhm,
which dealers I was meeting on which day of the week because that's the time and day we met every week.
mhm,
Now, people could walk into my office at any moment with any kind of problem.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to be prepared for that. And I have to be able to, put what I'm doing now down to give them my undivided attention and help address that issue. And
Mm-hmm.
that is a big change. I will tell you, when we started working from home due to the pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
my first week at home, I did so much work. I called my boss and I was like, we're going to have a problem after next week because I am just doing, I didn't realize how much time I was spending talking to people during the day, how many people were coming into my office. Because I don't venture out much. I actually sit in a place where everybody has to pass by me coming and going.
Mm-hmm.
And that's partly intentional. I like being there because I'm there for the employee.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you think of something when you're walking by, come on in. And everybody knows, I have an open door policy.
Mm-hmm.
I will say at one point that became difficult. I almost had to schedule like office hours again because so many people were coming and I wasn't getting anything done. And
Oh.
so I think that's the difference between the two is that, there's planned interactions when I
Mm-hmm.
was in sales and in human resources, nothing is planned. It just all happens and you have to
Mm.
deal with it as it comes.
Wow. Very interesting. I know a lot of people, they like everything planned out, depending on what job it is. So if there are things that happen that aren't planned, it's a little bit more
Mm-hmm.
tricky. You have to be able to problem solve. You have to be able to
Yep.
manage your time, be organized, because you still may have other things that are also planned,
Yep.
even when you get someone or something happens that's unplanned. So just being able to adapt, you talked about adaptability, being flexible, also carrying what you learned in previous positions to your next position. Um, and that's transferable skills, which we've talked about on several of these career chats. I cannot stress that enough. All of you have gained skills in employment throughout your career. So, what you can do is write those skills down, and if you're looking for a job, you can see if those skills match up with that profession's list of skills. Sometimes skills will be named two or three things, but could mean the same thing. So sometimes you might want to sit down. If you're not sure what a skill is, look it up, find out what the definition of it is, and see if the language is different from what you have on your resume. And so maybe you might want to make some changes to your resume. Maybe you want to tweak it a little bit. Maybe you want to change the language of it so that you could get that call for that interview, because all of us have skills. We just may not know exactly how to transfer them into a position that maybe we haven't done before. So we've talked about that several times. Um, the next thing I wanted to ask you, Angela, is how has your field changed in the face of COVID?
Ooh. That's an excellent question. And I wish I had a different answer from the one that I do. So, being in oil and gas, at the beginning of the pandemic, the price of a barrel of oil dropped. I mean, it hit zero, it went below zero, and it's like, whoa, that's terrible for our industry. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
so it caused a lot of panic, and it was mainly, two countries who were battling each other at the time, and it just happened, same time as the pandemic, and so it got worse.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, people weren't driving or flying or traveling as much during the pandemic, so there's no need for fuel. Um, and so people are buying less gas, and so that affects us in a big way. I will say that we have restructured our organization, and are still are. We've done probably two, maybe three major changes so far,
Mm-hmm.
and there are more to come. At least two more this year that I know. Just trying to adapt to how we go forward, because we know that our industry is cyclical, so it's high, low, high, low. So you go into a cycle of maybe 2 to 3 great years and then 2 to 3 bad years. And so we
Mm-hmm.
know that now that we're in this period, it's going to continue for about another 2 years. And
Mm-hmm.
so we have to re-strategize, reposition ourselves, reposition our people to be able to sustain ourselves, to save as many positions as we can, to create new opportunities for people. And
Mm-hmm.
that's really what I'm here for, is to kind of understand everybody's expertise to say, okay, this is what is happening with our industry. Let's move forward. And we have a lot of industry forums, that where we collaborate with other people to find out how they're handling it. I have a few coming up in the next 2 months actually.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're a smaller refinery. We're not, an Exxon or a Shell,
Mm-hmm.
Chevron. So we have to adapt in a different way.
Mm. Yeah, you bring up several good points, and I think that also speaks to the transitional skills you also as a employee have to decide, okay, now our company is faced with something we've never been faced before. How do we take a look at what we're doing now and still remain relevant now that we're facing a pandemic? So that's a skill set. And so if you are working in an organization right now and maybe they've said to you, hey, we're going to have to think about letting people go. We don't have the business we used to get. Maybe what you want to do, even if you're not in a supervisory or leadership role, is think about, hey, how can we be creative and how can we still remain relevant now in these times? And maybe you want to present that to your manager or your supervisor, and see if there's something that can be done so that you can remain sustained, keep your position, or maybe help keep others' positions. They would appreciate that. I know a lot of supervisors and managers have other things that they have to deal with. And so having someone on the team who's actually doing the work, come up with a creative idea to help move along the organization can be extremely valuable. So I know there's a lot of creative people. They're probably thinking, that's not my role to think of something for the organization to do. I just
Indeed.
work here. I'm not in a leadership position, but maybe this could put you in that position, or it could save the organization, or it could help generate more financial power, because we're going to have to get creative right now. I don't know about you, but I do a lot of shopping. And I've seen a lot of companies email me saying, hey, we're filing for bankruptcy. And I'm thinking, what? This is somewhere where I want to continue to shop. How could they go bankrupt? But maybe if one person there would have come up with something, or maybe they had an idea but were afraid to share it, maybe that company wouldn't be going bankrupt right now. So now's the opportunity for you to not only think about how to push yourself in your career, but maybe help push the organization, to new limits, or share your creative ideas. I'm pretty sure they would welcome them.
Yeah, and you're not the only one. Like I felt that way when the pandemic started and we started working from home because everyone had to adjust to being at home or having their children at home, having their spouse at home, trying to find their new routine, that
Mhm.
nobody was coming to my virtual sessions.
Wow.
And so I was very concerned. I'm like, oh my gosh. And so, my boss and I got together and I told him how I was feeling. He suggested that I just start calling people individually and check on them
Mm.
and see how they're doing. And when
Mhm.
I did that and I was sharing with them, they're like, oh, no, 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 no. We still need you. You're relevant. This is just what's happening with me right now.
Mhm.
I'm trying to adjust and I can't figure this out. And there's a
Mhm.
lot of changes going on. No, no, no. We need you. And you know what? I was worried a little too soon. I would say probably 2 to 3 weeks after that.
Mhm.
Ever since then, I've had people in everything that I've done.
Mm.
People who've never even attended before have been
Wow.
attending now. And that was my hope going virtual, that it would be, more convenient. Hey, this is a great midday break. But, we just had to find that rhythm of what worked for all of us.
Hmm. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Sometimes, well, I know throughout this whole process, everybody has been adjusting, especially parents of children, and they, having to figure out how to do homeschool, how to work, how to do home life. So, it's been a very stressful time. So, if you're still struggling out there, please continue to hang in there. It's going to get better. We're all trying to adjust. So, yes, thank you for that. So, Angela, how can young folks who want to find volunteer opportunities, maybe they're still in school, how can they get started in your field by volunteering?
Oh, wow. Um, there are a lot of ways that you can connect with organizations by volunteering.
Mm-hmm.
And internships are one way. We primarily do paid internships, but there are a lot of organizations that are looking for people who are looking for the experience for their resume. or it's for their, in order to earn their degree. One of the biggest ways I think that people meet us is because of the work that we do in the community. One of our core values as a company is being community centric. And so we are the #1 supporter of West Alabama financially, United Way. And we run the largest campaign every year, and we meet people through doing that. You know, we have golf tournaments, we go to the kickoff sessions and things like that. And so we're always interacting with people and finding people's interests. You know, we have a day, United Way Day of Giving, where we put together serve groups who go to different projects and work. And you'll see other people volunteering there, you know, and we might all take a group picture together to say, okay, we all worked on this project together. So just being active in your community does that. We are the largest Big Brothers Big Sisters at Work participant in our area. We have a lot of our employees who volunteer for that program, and we do an adopt-a-school. So we actually sponsor an elementary school that's close to our location, and we provide just different things throughout the school year, you know, tutoring, you know, snacks during testing, you know, whatever the case may be. We try to make sure that they have funds to do those things. You know, I'm in charge of that program, so I make sure we have enrichment programs like the artists in school. So if you're an artist, you know, let me know, because you know, you can connect with me through that. And just working together on things like that will give me an idea of how you work, you know, your personality, how dependable and punctual you are. And that goes a long way, because when I'm thinking about that again, I'll remember you. Or when I see you, or I see your name on a piece of paper coming in the HR for an interview, I'll go, oh yes, we have to interview this person. Oh yes, we have to talk to this person. So there are a number of ways to interact even outside of internships. You know, I encourage people to be involved. We have a Young Tuscaloosa group here, and it's for people who are early in their careers. I think it's like 45 and below. But they encourage you to go to those socials because you get to interact with people from different companies. The companies actually come and speak sometimes, or they sponsor the event. And so that's another opportunity to connect with individuals from there. And then of course, LinkedIn. You know, I can't tell you how many companies, like especially recruiters, they love to link in with other people so that when they have something open, they have a list of people to go through. It's just right there. They have those connections. And so that's another good way to, you know, associate yourself with an organization outside of an internship or community service type thing.
So you mentioned LinkedIn. So for our viewers who don't know what LinkedIn is, it is a social networking platform for professionals. So if you don't have a LinkedIn account, you can go there and set up a LinkedIn account. You can put a profile picture, you can put your resume on there. And so a lot of companies, sometimes, like Angela said, that's where they start. They start looking on LinkedIn to see who has the qualifications they're looking for a position, because they might need someone within the next day or so, and they don't have time for the job posting to go out and, you know, the waiting period to try to get someone. So if you don't have a LinkedIn account, think about setting one up. Young people, internships are out there. You just need to start talking to people, asking, are there internships available with your organization? I'm interested. You might want to go ahead and have your resume ready. I know you may not feel like you're old enough yet as a teen to have a resume, but you are not too young. You can go ahead and get started. If you want to work with us at the library, we can assist you with creating one. So you want to build your professional repertoire now with that. And then if you're already in an organization, Angela talked about if there's volunteer opportunities within your organization, it's important that you try to participate in those, because you never know who you're going to be connected with. And that could be the person that's interviewing for a position that you're looking for, and you can show them exactly your work ethic right along with them in a volunteer opportunity. We never talked about that on our show, but yes, it is very important. If you're in an organization and there's opportunities for you to do community service work, looking to try to do some of those things, because you can build relationships, you can network, meet other people, and also possibly gain another position or a higher position. So that is very important.
Yeah, you mentioned, you know, if there's an internship, keep in mind that even if they don't have a program, you can ask. it is, especially if you're looking to be an unpaid intern just for the experience so you can have it on your resume, ask. Hey, I know you don't have an internship program, but is that something you're open to? These are the things that I can provide or assist you with. I actually had to start my own business since I've been here because I volunteered to speak at a community event. How that happened, how they even thought to ask me, I do not know. But from that event, I end up working for the University of Alabama on the side, teaching some of their professional development classes. I was actually on a panel with the Lieutenant Governor last year for the Manufacturers Association, which now I'm on a committee for. Those people never even met me. They just heard about me and invited me to come speak. And I'm like, you don't need, a video or something. They're like, no, we heard you're fantastic. You just come on, we're paying for this and that. And I was like, wow, how does that happen? And it was just from volunteering to do that first thing. And this year I'll be speaking right before the governor.
Oh, awesome. So, just being open to opportunities. That's incredible, Angela. I'm so happy for you. It seems like what you try to do is continuously network with people, have conversations with people, look into different opportunities. So many people I've worked with turn down things, and they don't really see the bigger picture. Is that if I volunteer and do this, or if I'm a part of this committee, or if I'm active in my role at my job, it could lead to something bigger and better, maybe something that I really want to do. And so I encourage you, if you are, working somewhere, that you volunteer, that you step up and say, yeah, I want to be a part of that committee, or yeah, I'm going to volunteer for that, or yeah, I'll give it a try. Even if it's something that you don't think you would be necessarily good at, you never know what could happen. You never know. You could surprise yourself, but just don't turn down opportunities for growth and development when volunteering to be a part of something, or a team or a committee.
Exactly. And I want to say two things about that. Sorry. One is that I never saw myself as a networker. I thought it was funny when you said that. I do not think that I'm a networker because I talk for a living all day. I tend to sit back when it comes to social occasions because I've been talking all day. I don't really want to talk anymore. So I never thought of networking that way, but I will say it is the power of saying yes. Because I've done all those things in the community, I actually earned a board seat on the Chamber of Commerce and the American Red Cross here. And I was honored by United Way earlier this year, what is it called? A United in Service Award for my work in the community. And I was shocked. I was like, how do they even know what I'm doing? Like, who nominated me for this? How would they know that? And mind you, I've only lived here 4.5 years. I'm not from here.
Wow.
So, that's just the power of saying yes.
Excellent. Yes. So please say yes. If you're listening and opportunities come your way, say yes and try things out. So, Angela, what comments do you have about the industry that people just entering may want to know?
Specifically to oil and gas, it would be the cycle. You have to prepare yourself for the cycle. Be open to being flexible, be open to other roles. In my organization, the organization has a stigma that says, oh, if you're not an engineer, then, you can't grow to these senior roles because it's so technically focused. But that's not necessarily the case. We've gone so long that now we're learning those soft skills, that emotional intelligence is super duper important. And there are certain communication and learning styles that struggle with that. And that's where you can shine. Just because I'm good in something technical doesn't mean I'm good at my numbers. Somebody has to order these materials and pay for them and different types of things like that. So I think you should prepare yourself to be flexible, be willing to take on that new role, be open to moving, honestly. Like Jacobs Engineering, I work for Jacobs. They probably have 50 locations just in the US, if not more, because I know they had multiple in South Carolina alone and multiple in Houston. So, and that's just, a city and a state. So, be open to that. It doesn't mean that you have to go far, but it may just be another office location of the same organization. And that's important. A lot of organizations have field positions too. Jacobs is really good for that. Michelin was really good for that. I didn't work from an office for the first time until 2013.
Wow.
I worked for 10 years after college, never having worked in an office.
Wow.
So that was an adjustment for me. And again, being flexible, saying yes to the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, there was an outlet in that. They have Fridays off. It's a part of their culture. I had an opportunity for that global exposure. And so I was willing to forgo and learn how to be in an office. And at first it was awkward, but after about the first 2 months, like I enjoyed my coworkers and being able to on Monday morning about what we did on the weekend, but just that flexibility and making yourself known. You can get lost in this industry if you are not vocal, if you're not, performing at top pace where people are taking notice. And when I say be vocal, I mean be vocal in a positive way. Don't always be the naysayer. Understand that there are times where you just have to say yes. You may not agree with what the company has decided, but you don't want to be that person that's always creating opposition to what leadership is saying. Because one thing about leaders in this industry is they do not forget.
Wow.
Because it's performance is rated so high, and it's so fast paced, they need you to be able to do what they need immediately. And it's not a lot of downtime for, this project has been on my desk for 3 months. I don't know how many people know this, but refineries are more dangerous shut down than they are running.
Wow.
So it's important that we run a 24/7 operation every day of the year. That cannot stop. Something can't just be broken and sit there. It has to be fixed immediately because it is more dangerous. If we were just to go out of business and take it down, that would be a very difficult thing to do. That's not what you want. So just being able to respond in a timely manner is really important in this industry.
Yeah, and I like what you said about being positive. It's so easy to be negative about things, especially if it's something new that's presented to you in your career or in your profession. But it really is, important to pay attention to that. Yes, bosses and managers, they are watching. Not only are they watching, because they want to see, what your response is, but if you're looking to be in a manager or a leadership role, those people have to try to motivate and convince people that they're managing and supervising, that something that the organization wants to do is, what they're going to do. They have to get people to do what the organization wants to do. And so if you're negative and, the people you're supervising jumps on the negative boat with you, then the organization can't move forward. So try to think about that, self-evaluate, self-reflect right now, even if you're not a manager or a supervisor, and see how you respond to things. Try to respond positively. Try to think about the positives of something. Maybe there's a new thing that your supervisor or boss has asked you to do, and try to think about positive aspects of it so you can speak positively about it, because it does matter and it does reflect on you as an employee. So that is so important that we keep that in mind. Okay, it looks like we've reached our hour, Angela, of talking. I would like to thank you for joining me today, telling our viewers about your position. Very educational, very informative. I hope that our viewers out there take it into consideration if they see an organizational development position that they might want to apply to. I just want to also let our viewers know that our website is available to you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at pgcmls.info. If you go to our online library, once you get to the website, you can go to the jobs and careers section, and then there's 3 great different areas that you can look at. That's our Brain Fuse, Career Transitions, and Learning Express library. In those areas, you can see how to update or create your resume. You can create a cover letter there as well, all for free. There's a job coach there that is available from specific hours. You can ask questions, maybe get them to look over your resume for free. You just have to have your library card to get access. If we have any veterans that are listening, there are specific resources for veterans on our website that you can also take advantage of. And then if you are a teen, we have something for you as well. If you're looking to prepare to go to college, there's college entrance exam help. If there are people looking to get their citizenship, that's there as well. And then there's all sorts of things for people who are trying to build their skills. Maybe you have math, reading, and writing skills that you want to build upon, and that is there as well. And again, thank you for tuning in today. We hope you tune in each and every Wednesday for our career chat where we explore a new and exciting career with you. Again, Angela, thank you so much for joining
For
us.
having me.
Very informative. Loved hearing about your career journey, and hopefully you have inspired others. Again, we'll see you next time. Be safe, socially distanced, make sure you wear your mask, and have a good rest of your week. Goodbye.
Bye.